how do you view success, right? How do you know you've had a good day co-parent? What is a metric for success for parenting?
Good. I'll definitely let Rebecca field this one since I'm still figuring it out day by day.
Well, look, the simple thing is you want your child to grow up. You want your child to be independent. You want him to be the person that he wants to be, that he feels fulfilled in life. And part of being a parent, like I'll psych myself up. I'll be driving in the car and I'll be thinking in my head, like ruminating, what if he doesn't want to come home on the holidays and see me? Well, you have to let him go. And I'm like tearing up in the car, like imagining this scenario, like 10 years in the future when my child doesn't want to come home and see me. And the reality is that whatever they grow up and do, that's their choice. And what I'm trying to do as a parent is give them everything that they need to be able to make good choices that are authentic, independent choices, and to set them up for success, and then to just kind of let them go. But I think one important thing for parents is just not to be a perfectionist, because you make mistakes all the time as a parent, and it's okay. It really is. And it's especially okay if you own your mistakes and you apologize, right? So if you snap at your child, you can say, I'm sorry for snapping at you, and your child will love you for it. They'll love you even more than if you never lost your temper. The fact that you owned it and care enough to apologize, in the same way as in any adult relationship, sometimes you have a breach of trust that you repair, and the relationship is better afterwards because you repaired it. So it's the same thing with children. You can't, your standard can't be to be perfect.
Yeah, and that's just so fundamental on so many different levels, both just as a broad psychological principle and therefore also as a modeling principle for parents, right? Because, I mean, for all the reasons that Rebecca said, that it actually strengthens the relationship, and it communicates care, and it communicates fallibility, right, to your child, and honesty and trust, right? That, okay, so my parents will actually own their mistakes when they make them. And so if they're telling me something with great confidence, I can trust that at least at this moment they believe it, because they would tell me if they change their minds, right? And just all the ways it builds confidence in you. But if you think about also what you're modeling for them, and so in that sense, I think it's actually, it's more perfect to be a parent who messes up a lot and owns that than to be a parent who's like, squeaky clean and invulnerable. Because what do you want to teach your kid, right? Do you want to teach your kid that it is intolerable to own a mistake and to learn and to grow, right? And as a, once kid myself, like I can remember how easily we grow up kind of assuming that our parents are like omniscient and omnipotent, or at least, I did for a while. I remember, like, I can almost remember the moment when it first dawned on me, like, wait, my parents can sometimes be wrong about stuff. Like, they can just be wrong. And that was a really big revelation for me. Sorry, Dad, if you're listening. I mean, hopefully not, a major confessional, because we all sometimes err, but just to be able to see that part of being a really trustworthy, really competent, ambitious adult is to own mistakes.
Yeah, there is a lot of guilt wrapped up with parenting, because I think most parents recognize going in, this is a huge responsibility. And I think that's great, and it's important to recognize. And sometimes what comes along with that is, I'm guilty because I stopped breastfeeding too soon. I'm guilty because I worked too late. I'm guilty because I'm guilty because I didn't teach my 7-year-old to ride a bicycle younger. So now I'm like obsessing over, oh my gosh, he doesn't know how to ride a bicycle. I need to like get on this as a mom, right? It's like everything is a potential source of guilt.
Never too late. It's never too late.
Yeah, there are great memes around this of just like, you are a failure of a mom if, and there's like this long list that literally includes the full set of possible ways to be a mom.
Teach him to ride a bike. You did not teach him to ride a bike, right?
Exactly. You taught him too soon. You taught him too late. You taught him at all. You didn't teach him at all. Like, just really, there's no winning from that perspective.
So how do you keep it together when it's difficult, right? Kids can be difficult. It's challenging. It's time consuming. It's hard. They're difficult sometimes. What do you remind yourself to get through those periods?
Well, this for me is where it does really touch on what I spend all day doing, just training teachers and coaching teachers and observing in classrooms. And I think there's important beliefs that you have to remind yourself. So one of those is children are building skills from scratch. So the ability to walk and control your body, right? The ability to control your voice, the ability to close the door gently, the impulse control to turn the light on, but not turn it off and on 80 million bajillion times, right? So
yeah, that one doesn't have that
your
yet.
emotions,
But they're also learning about causality. So turning it on and off is part of their.
They're fascinated by it. Exactly. So all of these things are skills that are not. It's not just you tell a child, we walk inside of our house, right? One time, and then he knows, because everything that you know and develop as a skill is built over time. And so the kind of mantra in our household is, you are still learning this, you are working on this. So our children, for example, are terrible at losing games. They fly off the handle, they have tremendous tantrums, they throw things, they slam doors, they storm out of the room, right? And so we've made it all about, we're learning to be a good winner and a good loser. And here's the positive thing that you do. You shake hands and you say good game. And that's what we're going to practice. That's the positive skill that we practice, that's the right thing to do when you finish a game. But if you don't do it, it's because you're still learning and you're still working. And that's helping a child to kind of have a growth mindset about their own development, I think.
Yeah.
Gina?
Remind me of the original question.
How do you deal with the tough times?
That's right. Well, it's a question that's also, it feels very native for me from a somewhat different perspective, because I am in the business of helping people through tough times. And I've got all these skills and perspectives in my head that in theory I should be able to bring to bear when I'm struggling. But I would say for me, what it boils down to, just for me personally, and I think there'll be different kind of emphases and of the various beliefs Rebecca's talking about, kind of what you really need in that moment, or what you're most likely to have blind spots for is going to differ. But for me, just like the quickest shot of perspective is just the modeling perspective. That my job here, a big part of my job is to show Alice how to be a human, right? And to show her what's possible, and to show her kind of how she can relate to herself, and how I want her to ultimately learn to parent and coach and guide herself when she grows up. So what do I want to show her right now? And that includes when I'm really struggling. Like, how do I want to show her that she can cope with anger, with frustration, with uncertainty, with disappointment? And then I just really embrace that role and kind of lean into it. Like, I want to be my best for her. That's the best I can do as a mom, is to kind of bring my best self for her. Let's say, and for me, it's kind of continuous with what I do with clients, and obviously lots of differences because, very different kind of relationship. But that's the question I ask myself.
It doesn't always work, but
No.
we try our best.
Yes. Again, with the perfectionism point. And also you'll still mess it up, or I certainly do.
So we're going to get into kind of education, but I'm curious how you approach the idea of teaching them how to be good people. In a sense, teaching them, what is it, how to be moral, right? How to live a moral life. How do you approach that? I expect you don't read them Gold Speech when they're 5, or have them memorize the 7 virtues.
Not yet, anyway.
Not yet, anyway.
No, not planning on it in the foreseeable future.
Good.
And to begin with, I wonder if I can ask you to capsulize. I know this is difficult. Can I ask you to capsulize your philosophy? What is Randism?
First of all, I do not call it Randism, and I don't like that name. I call it Objectivism.
All right.
Meaning a philosophy based on objective reality. Now let me explain it as briefly as I can. First, my philosophy is based on the concept that reality exists as an objective absolute, that man's mind, reason, is his means of perceiving it, and that man needs a rational morality. I am primarily the creator of a new code of morality which has so far been believed impossible, namely a morality not based on faith.
On
or
faith.
Not on faith, not on arbitrary whim, not on emotion, not on arbitrary edict, mystical or social, but on reason, a morality which can be proved by means of logic, which can be demonstrated to be true and necessary.
All right. All right.
Now, may I define what my morality is?
All right.
Because this is merely an introduction. My morality is based on man's life as a standard of value. And since man's mind is his basic means of survival, I hold that if man wants to live on earth and to live as a human being, he has to hold reason as an absolute, by which I mean that he has to hold reason as his only guide to action, and that he must live by the independent judgment of his own mind, that his highest moral purpose is the achievement of his own happiness, and that he must not force other people nor accept their right to force him, that each man must live as an end in himself and follow his own rational self-interest.
May I?
All right, before we go on, reminder, please like the show. We've got 163 live listeners right now, 30 likes. That should be at least 100. I figure at least 100 of you actually like the show. Maybe there are like 60 of the Matthews out there who hate it, but at least the people who are liking it, you know, I want to see a thumbs up. There you go. Start liking it. I want to see that go to 100. All it takes is a click of a thing, whether you're looking at this. And you know, the likes matter. It's not an issue of my ego. It's an issue of the algorithm. The more you like something, the more the algorithm likes it. So, you know, and if you don't like the show, give it a thumbs down. Let's see your actual views being reflected in the likes. But if you like it, don't just sit there. Help get the show promoted. Of course, you should also share. And you can support the show at yaronbrookshow.com/support, or on Patreon or Subscribestar or Locals, and show your support for the work, for the value hopefully you're receiving from this. And of course, don't forget, if you're not a subscriber, even if you just come here to troll, or even if you're here like Matthew to defend Marx, then you should subscribe, because that way you'll know when to show up. You'll know what shows are on, when they're on. You'll get notified, right? So, yes, like, share, subscribe, support. Like, share, subscribe, support. There you go. Easy. Do one or all of those, please.